What if I told you that having very little money doesn't mean you're powerless? What if the habits that help you survive on almost nothing are the same habits that later make people rich? David Tepper didn't start with abundance. He started with discipline, and that discipline changes everything. Living on extremely low income isn't just a financial challenge, it's a mental test. David Tepper's life and mindset show us that wealth doesn't begin with money, it begins with control. In this video, we'll break down powerful principles inspired by Tepper that help you survive, stabilize, and slowly build strength, even when income is limited. David Tepper is known for one thing above all: clarity. In moments of pressure, when uncertainty is high and resources feel scarce, clarity becomes the difference between survival and self-destruction. When money is tight, denial is not comfort, it is danger. Ignoring bank balances, avoiding bills, or guessing instead of knowing creates a fog that leads to panic decisions. Tepper's mindset rejects that fog completely. He believes you cannot fix what you refuse to look at. The first step toward control is brutal honesty with your financial reality, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. Facing your numbers means knowing, down to the last dollar, what comes in and what goes out. It means understanding your income, your fixed costs, your variable spending, and the leaks that silently drain your resources. This process is not about shame or judgment, it is about truth. Tepper approaches numbers the way a surgeon approaches a patient: calm, focused, and precise. Emotion has no role here. Fear, guilt, and hope are all distractions. Numbers don't care how you feel, and pretending otherwise only gives them more power over you. When you remove emotion from your financial situation, something powerful happens. Anxiety begins to shrink. Confusion disappears. Instead of guessing, you start making deliberate choices. You may not like what you see at first, but clarity replaces fear with structure. Even if the situation is difficult, knowing exactly where you stand gives you a sense of ground beneath your feet. Tepper understands that uncertainty is often more painful than reality itself. Once reality is clear, the mind can begin solving problems instead of running from them. This clarity also forces responsibility. No excuses. No blaming the economy, your past, or other people. Tepper's philosophy demands ownership. When you own the numbers, you own the outcome. Responsibility is not about punishment, it is about power. The moment you stop lying to yourself is the moment you stop being helpless. You begin to see where small changes can create breathing room, where waste can be eliminated, and where discipline can replace desperation. Clarity turns reaction into strategy. Instead of reacting emotionally to every bill or unexpected expense, you begin to anticipate. You plan ahead, however small the plan may be. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is the smartest move from here?" That shift in thinking is everything. Tepper built his success by staying rational when others panicked, and the same principle applies at any income level. Clarity is the first form of power because it restores choice. Even when options are limited, knowing your reality gives you the ability to choose the least damaging path and the most constructive next step. From that place, discipline becomes possible, progress becomes measurable, and slowly control returns. This is how strength is built, not through wishful thinking, but through clear, unemotional truth. On a low income, every dollar must justify its existence. This idea sits at the core of David Tepper's way of thinking. Money, in his view, is not meant to entertain your impulses or impress others. It is meant to serve a clear purpose. When resources are limited, purpose becomes non-negotiable. Each expense must answer a simple question: does this help me survive, stabilize, or improve my future? If the answer is no, it becomes noise, and noise is dangerous when margins are thin. Tepper's discipline starts with priorities that are brutally simple. Food is not about indulgence, it is about fuel. Shelter is not about status, it is about safety. Transportation is not about comfort, it is about access and opportunity. These basics come first because without them, nothing else matters. Once these are covered efficiently, the next essential investment is knowledge. Tepper has always treated learning as a necessity, not a luxury. Books, skills, and understanding systems create leverage that no material purchase ever can. Knowledge is the one expense that pays dividends even when income is low. Everything beyond these essentials must be questioned. Subscriptions, brand names, convenience purchases, and lifestyle habits often sneak in disguised as small pleasures, but over time they quietly drain freedom. Tepper's mindset does not hate enjoyment, it simply delays it. He understands that short-term comfort often trades away long-term control. Luxury feels good in the moment, but it does nothing to strengthen your position. Discipline, on the other hand, compounds. It builds stability, confidence, and optionality. Cutting aggressively does not mean punishing yourself or living in misery. Tepper's approach is strategic, not emotional. The goal is not to suffer, the goal is to remove weakness. By stripping spending down to what truly matters, you reduce stress and increase clarity. When fewer dollars are wasted, each remaining dollar becomes more powerful. You stop feeling constantly behind and start feeling intentional, even if progress is slow. This level of discipline also trains the mind. You begin to distinguish between wants and needs with precision. You become less reactive to marketing, social pressure, and comparison. Tepper believes that independence begins the moment you stop trying to look rich and start trying to become strong. Strength comes from control, and control comes from restraint. Every unnecessary expense you eliminate is a small act of self-respect. Over time, this mindset reshapes your identity. You no longer see frugality as deprivation. You see it as strategy. You are not cutting back because you are weak. You are focusing because you are serious. Tepper's success was built on making fewer, better decisions, not more expensive ones. Living this way on a low income builds habits that remain powerful even when income rises. Ultimately, discipline creates freedom because it gives you room to breathe. When money is forced to justify itself, waste disappears and intention takes its place. That is how you survive with strength, not fear, and how you prepare yourself for a future that is bigger than your current income. Comfort is expensive, and David Tepper understands this at a deep practical level. Comfort tempts you to optimize for how life feels today, rather than how long you can sustain it tomorrow. Soft choices, convenient habits, and emotional spending all carry hidden costs that quietly shorten your financial lifespan. Survival, on the other hand, is efficient. It strips life down to what truly matters and forces every decision to support endurance. Tepper's mindset is not about living pleasantly in the moment. It is about staying in the game long enough to win. Endurance changes how you evaluate choices. Instead of asking, will this make me feel better right now? You begin asking, will this help me last longer? This shift is powerful. When income is low, time becomes your most valuable asset. Every unnecessary expense, every comfort purchase, every short-term relief reduces the amount of time you can survive without collapsing. Tepper thinks in terms of runway, the distance between where you are now and the point where resources run out. The entire goal is to extend that runway as far as possible. When you focus on endurance, efficiency becomes natural. You start finding ways to meet needs with less. You choose function over form, durability over trend, usefulness over appearance. You learn to repair, reuse, and adapt instead of replacing at the first inconvenience. These habits are not signs of poverty, they are signs of intelligence under pressure. Tepper's success came from seeing constraints not as limitations, but as systems that could be optimized. Survival efficiency also builds emotional strength. Comfort dulls awareness, but efficiency sharpens it. When you live close to the essentials, you become more conscious of your decisions. You waste less energy, less money, and less attention. This clarity reduces panic. You may not have much, but you know exactly how long you can last, and that knowledge brings calm. Tepper understands that calm thinking under pressure creates better outcomes than frantic attempts to escape discomfort. Extending your runway gives life more chances to work in your favor. Opportunities rarely arrive on a schedule. They come unexpectedly, often after long periods of stagnation. If you burn out early chasing comfort, you may miss the moment that changes everything. Tepper built his career by staying patient while others exhausted themselves. He survived downturns, waited out chaos, and positioned himself to act when conditions finally shifted. There's also dignity and endurance. Choosing survival over comfort is not weakness, it is courage. It means you trust the future enough to sacrifice the present. Each day you last is another day to learn, adapt, and improve. Skills compound, knowledge grows, perspective deepens. The longer you stay alive financially, the stronger you become mentally. In Tepper's world, winning is not about feeling good every day. It is about lasting long enough to reach a better chapter. Survival is efficient because it preserves your most valuable resource, time. And time, when combined with discipline and learning, eventually creates opportunity. If you don't have money, you still have time, and David Tepper understood this truth long before wealth entered his life. Time is the one asset that remains available regardless of income. And when used correctly, it can become even more powerful than capital. Tepper didn't waste his early years wishing for money he didn't have. He focused on extracting maximum value from the hours available to him. He studied relentlessly, observed how systems worked, and trained his mind to think clearly under pressure. This quiet, disciplined use of time laid the foundation for everything that came later. When income is low, entertainment often becomes an escape from stress, but escape does not build strength. Tepper's mindset challenges this instinct. He believed that every hour either moves you forward or keeps you stuck. Replacing entertainment with education is not about eliminating joy, it is about choosing progress over distraction. Books, lectures, financial reports, biographies, and real-world observation sharpen judgment. They expand how you see opportunity. While others were consuming noise, Tepper was accumulating understanding. Replacing scrolling with skill building is another critical shift. Endless scrolling feels harmless, but it drains focus and energy without giving anything back. Skill building, on the other hand, compounds. Learning to analyze information, communicate clearly, understand markets, or solve practical problems increases your value over time. Tepper treated thinking itself as a skill to be trained. He learned to sit with complexity, question assumptions, and wait for clarity instead of rushing to conclusions. These abilities later became his competitive advantage. Time invested wisely compounds just like money, and in many cases, it compounds faster when you are starting from zero. When you have little money, even small improvements in skill and knowledge create outsized returns. One new understanding can change how you make every future decision. One useful skill can open doors that money alone cannot. Tepper's early investments were not financial, they were intellectual. Each hour of study added another brick to a structure that could not be taken away. This approach also builds confidence rooted in competence. Instead of hoping for luck, you begin to trust your preparation. Tepper's confidence never came from arrogance, it came from knowing he had done the work. Time spent learning reduces fear because fear thrives in ignorance. As your understanding grows, uncertainty shrinks. You may still face hardship, but you face it with sharper tools and a calmer mind. Using time well also changes how you see yourself. You stop by identifying as someone who lacks money and start seeing yourself as someone in training. Every disciplined hour becomes proof that your future is under construction. Progress may feel slow, but it is steady, and steady progress is powerful. Tepper's lesson is clear: money can be lost, but time, once invested wisely, leaves permanent marks on who you become. When you start from zero, time is not a consolation prize. It is your greatest advantage. Low income creates fear, a fear that permeates every decision and shapes every thought. Bills loom larger than they should, deadlines feel like traps, and the future often appears as an unpredictable storm. Fear of not making ends meet can dominate your mind, influencing choices in ways that make survival even harder. David Tepper understood this deeply, recognizing that fear is not merely an emotional response, it is a decision disruptor. When people allow fear to control them, they react impulsively, spending money they don't have, taking unnecessary risks, or giving up opportunities prematurely. Tepper's success was built on learning how to neutralize fear, not by ignoring it, but by confronting it with logic and preparation. Fear clouds judgment because it narrows perception. When your mind is fixated on scarcity, it misses patterns, opportunities, and solutions that are right in front of you. Tepper's approach is to step back and observe without panic. He treats fear as a signal, not a dictator. When the pressure mounts, he asks questions: what is real? What is temporary? What can I control? By separating perception from reality, Tepper restores clarity. You begin to see that fear is often exaggerated, fueled by uncertainty rather than fact. And when clarity replaces fear, the path forward becomes visible. Calm in the mind is an active process. It involves deliberate breathing, structured thinking, and prioritization. Tepper emphasizes preparation as a tool to quiet fear. When you know your numbers, understand your risks, and plan your actions, fear loses its power. Panic spending is no longer necessary because decisions are grounded in logic rather than desperation. Emotional choices, buying to soothe anxiety, overspending to chase comfort, or overreacting to setbacks, become obvious distractions rather than inevitable behaviors. Tepper's mindset transforms scarcity from a trap into a framework for disciplined action. Acting from logic instead of fear also builds confidence. Every thoughtful decision, no matter how small, reinforces the idea that you can handle adversity. Fear diminishes when repeated evidence shows that careful planning and rational thought produce better results than reactionary behavior. Tepper's philosophy is simple: the more you practice calm, calculated decision-making, the less power fear has over you. Over time, this creates a mental resilience that money alone cannot buy. You start making choices not because you are scared, but because you understand the consequences and benefits of each option. Furthermore, reducing fear sharpens creativity. When the mind is not dominated by anxiety, it begins to see solutions where others see dead ends. Tepper often acted when others panicked precisely because he could think clearly while fear clouded everyone else's judgment. Low income doesn't have to be a limitation. It can be training. Every stressful moment, when approached with calm and rationality, strengthens decision-making muscles. It turns scarcity into a laboratory for learning patience, strategic thinking, and foresight. Ultimately, fear is a temporary state, but clarity and disciplined thinking create lasting advantage. Tepper's lessons show that controlling fear is not about removing it. It's about mastering it. When you calm your mind, fear stops dictating your choices. Panic fades, emotional reactions diminish, and logic takes the driver's seat. And from that position of control, even a low-income situation becomes manageable, and every decision moves you closer to stability and opportunity. David Tepper didn't achieve success by chasing quick pleasure or giving in to immediate desires. From the beginning, he understood that the path to lasting wealth and stability required patience, discipline, and strategic restraint. On a low income, this principle becomes even more critical because every decision carries weight. When resources are limited, acting impulsively or seeking instant gratification can derail progress entirely. Tepper's approach was the opposite. He waited. He observed, analyzed, and made decisions based not on what felt good in the moment, but on what would create long-term advantage. Patience, in this context, becomes a weapon, a tool that multiplies the value of every dollar, every hour, and every opportunity. Waiting is not passive, it is active preparation. Tepper didn't simply sit idly hoping for luck. Instead, he used the waiting periods to plan, learn, and position himself for when conditions were right. On a low income, the temptation to spend on instant pleasure is strong because it provides emotional relief from stress and scarcity. But Tepper's philosophy reframes this impulse. Rather than seeking temporary satisfaction, he evaluated each choice through the lens of long-term leverage. Does this expense move me closer to my goals, or does it merely relieve the discomfort of today? This mindset turns ordinary restraint into strategic power. Delayed gratification is at the heart of this approach. It transforms small resources into tools for exponential growth. For someone with limited income, every dollar saved, every skill learned, and every calculated investment becomes disproportionately impactful over time. Tepper recognized that waiting and preparing allows opportunities to compound. The money you resist spending today, the effort you invest in learning rather than leisure, and the patience you exercise in making careful decisions all contribute to future freedom and advantage. It is a subtle but profound principle. The rewards of patience far outweigh the fleeting pleasure of impulsive action. Planning instead of buying immediately also fosters mental clarity. When you pause before spending, you force yourself to evaluate necessity, utility, and long-term benefit. Tepper treats patience as a form of intelligence, not deprivation. It trains the mind to anticipate consequences, to understand timing, and to act when conditions are most favorable. This mindset prevents waste, reduces regret, and strengthens discipline. Over time, it becomes an automatic process. Your decisions are guided by logic and strategy rather than impulse and emotion. On a low income, preparation replaces reaction. Rather than reacting to financial stress with desperation, spending, or poor choices, you prepare for potential scenarios in advance. You create buffers, learn critical skills, and build knowledge that will pay off when opportunities arise. Tepper's patience allowed him to capitalize on moments when others were blinded by fear or enticed by immediate pleasure. By waiting strategically, he positioned himself to act decisively and with maximum leverage. Ultimately, patience is not about waiting for life to happen. It is about making life happen on your terms. Delayed gratification turns scarcity into power. It converts limited resources into long-term advantage. It builds resilience, strengthens decision-making, and prepares you for opportunities that impulsive behavior would otherwise miss. Tepper's lesson is clear. The ability to wait, plan, and act deliberately is one of the most valuable tools anyone can wield, especially when income is low and stakes are high. Living cheaply isn't shameful, it's strategic. David Tepper built his foundation of wealth and stability by treating frugality not as a limitation, but as a deliberate strategy for survival and growth. In a world obsessed with appearances, where society equates spending with status, Tepper understood that efficiency and intelligence often lie hidden beneath restraint. the ability to manage limited resources wisely, to extract maximum value from every dollar, and to prioritize long-term advantage over short-term satisfaction is what separates those who survive from those who merely exist. Frugality, when practiced intentionally, becomes a tool for freedom, not a badge of deprivation. Tepper's approach to living cheaply starts with understanding the difference between wants and needs. Wants are often influenced by social pressure trends and fleeting desire, whereas needs are essential to functioning survival and opportunity. When income is low, distinguishing between the two is critical. Tepper advocates for spending on what directly supports stability, growth, or resilience, and cutting everything else. This mindset does not diminish quality of life. It enhances it by removing distractions, financial stress, and unnecessary obligations. It allows focus on what truly matters: your health, your skills, and your long-term goals. Learning how to stretch money is central to this strategy. Tepper exemplifies the discipline of making every dollar work harder. Simple habits such as negotiating bills, seeking discounts, and taking advantage of value-based purchases can dramatically extend financial resources. Instead of seeing money as finite and fragile, Tepper views it as a tool whose impact grows when used strategically. A small saving here or a smarter choice there can accumulate into significant advantage over time. Living cheaply does not mean settling for less. It means being intentional and precise with your choices. Fixing instead of replacing is another principle Tepper employs. In a culture dominated by disposability, the skill of repair and maintenance is undervalued. Tepper recognizes that taking the time to mend or improve an item often costs far less than replacing it entirely, while also teaching patience and resourcefulness. Every repaired item is a reinforcement of self-sufficiency and a rejection of unnecessary consumption. Over time, this habit reduces waste, saves money, and builds a mindset that values durability and efficiency. Choosing value over image is equally important. Tepper's frugality is never about embarrassment or avoidance of spending. It is about maximizing utility. Expensive brands or flashy items do not generate leverage or security. They merely signal status. True intelligence lies in acquiring what supports your goals and preserves your resources. When every purchase is intentional, money becomes a tool for advancement rather than a fleeting source of pleasure. Frugality done right is an exercise in intelligence, patience, and self-discipline. Tepper shows that living cheaply is not about weakness or scarcity thinking. It is about strength, strategy, and foresight. It trains the mind to evaluate choices critically, make calculated decisions, and prepare for opportunity. Over time, this disciplined approach creates freedom, resilience, and the ability to act decisively when better opportunities arise. Living cheaply is not a compromise. It is a deliberate, strategic path to empowerment. It is how you transform limited resources into lasting advantage, and how intelligence triumphs over impulse in the pursuit of lasting success. Before David Tepper built wealth, he built confidence, and that confidence was rooted in knowledge. For Tepper, money alone was never the foundation of success. It was the product of preparation, understanding, and mental strength. While many people chase wealth without a plan, Tepper invested time and energy into building a mind capable of recognizing opportunity, analyzing risk, and making decisive choices. Knowledge became his most valuable asset, far more reliable than luck or timing. By understanding market systems and human behavior, he created a framework that allowed him to act decisively when circumstances shifted, giving him an edge that money alone could never buy. Reading and learning were at the core of Tepper's strategy. He devoured information not for the sake of accumulation, but to gain insight into patterns and systems that others overlooked. Markets, with all their complexity and volatility, became less intimidating because Tepper had studied them, understood their mechanics, and anticipated their behavior. He didn't rely on guesswork, he relied on informed judgment. This approach extended beyond financial markets. Human behavior, decision-making, and psychology were just as important. Tepper recognized that people often act emotionally, irrationally, and predictably. By studying these patterns, he gained an ability to foresee reactions and anticipate opportunities, turning knowledge into actionable advantage. Mental capital, unlike financial capital, costs very little to build but pays dividends indefinitely. Every book read, every system studied, every lesson internalized increased Tepper's intellectual leverage. Knowledge does not deplete with use, it compounds. The more you learn, the more capable you become of making smarter decisions, evaluating risks, and identifying rare opportunities. This is the essence of preparation, creating a reserve of insight that can be drawn upon when a critical moment arises. Tepper treated this process as essential, knowing that without mental readiness, even the best opportunity could be wasted. When opportunity presents itself, preparation is what determines whether it changes your life or passes you by. Tepper's wealth did not arrive randomly. It arrived at moments he was ready for. Others saw the same events and failed because they lacked understanding, confidence, and strategy. Tepper, by contrast, could act swiftly and decisively because he had already done the thinking, analysis, and learning in advance. Preparation converts chance into choice and choice into outcome. In this sense, knowledge is not passive, it is active power. It enables you to move when others hesitate, to see what others cannot, and to capitalize on circumstances that seem chaotic or impossible. Confidence built on knowledge is sustainable. Unlike confidence based on ego, luck, or temporary success, it is resilient because it comes from competence. Tepper's mindset shows that wealth is secondary to mental preparation. The first victory is internal. Once you have the knowledge, the confidence follows, and with confidence comes the ability to execute under pressure. This is why he emphasizes learning before earning. Mental capital is the seed from which financial capital grows. By investing in understanding, study, and insight, you position yourself to seize opportunities that can transform your life, while those who neglect preparation are left waiting for luck that may never arrive. When money is tight, stress becomes a constant companion, hovering over every decision and coloring every thought. Bills, unexpected expenses, and the pressure of making ends meet can create a sense of urgency that clouds judgment. For most people, the stress triggers reactive behavior, impulsive spending, short-term fixes, and decisions based on fear rather than logic. David Tepper's strength, however, lies in his ability to remain calm under pressure. He recognized early on that composure is more than a personality trait. It is a strategic advantage. Calmness under duress allows you to assess situations clearly, evaluate risks rationally, and make decisions that others driven by panic or emotion simply cannot see. Stress narrows perception. When fear dominates the mind, options appear limited, threats seem larger than they are, and opportunities slip by unnoticed. Tepper understood that maintaining calm is not about avoiding stress but mastering it. Emotional discipline creates a mental buffer between stimulus and response. While others react impulsively, the calm mind evaluates, compares, and strategizes. Even when income is low and resources are scarce, this ability can dramatically alter outcomes. Tepper's approach demonstrates that mental control often outweighs financial control. Those who think clearly in crisis consistently outperform those who have more money but less composure. Calmness also enables foresight. Tepper could anticipate market shifts, investment opportunities, and strategic moves not because he had more money, but because he had a mind unclouded by fear. In the context of a low income, this principle is equally critical. Decisions made under pressure often compound problems, while choices made from a composed state maximize the value of every dollar and every action. Emotional discipline allows you to weigh consequences, prioritize effectively, and avoid the traps that stress and scarcity create. It turns adversity into a learning ground where each challenge hones patience, resilience, and strategic thinking. Another advantage of calmness is the ability to act decisively. Tepper's success often came from making bold moves while others hesitated. Panic paralyzes, but a composed mind identifies leverage points. Even limited resources, when deployed with clarity and confidence, can generate disproportionate results. Tepper's principle teaches that it is not wealth alone that determines outcomes, it is the quality of thinking under pressure. A low-income individual who remains disciplined, patient, and clear-headed can outperform someone with far greater resources who reacts emotionally and short-sightedly. Finally, calmness fosters long-term resilience. Stress without control leads to burnout, poor judgment, and cycles of scarcity. Tepper's ability to maintain composure built not only wealth, but also mental endurance. Emotional discipline becomes a compounding advantage. The longer you remain calm under pressure, the more capable you are of navigating challenges, spotting opportunities, and converting scarcity into strength. Calmness is a skill that transforms obstacles into stepping stones, scarcity into strategy, and pressure into preparation. Even when income is limited, mastering this skill creates an edge that no amount of money alone can buy, demonstrating that true advantage lies in the mind before it lies in the wallet. David Tepper never saw hardship as permanent. In his view, challenges, scarcity, and low income circumstances were not signals of failure, but rather opportunities for growth and preparation. He understood that financial limitations are temporary states, not defining characteristics of a person. Low income is not your identity, it is your training ground. It is in these periods of constraint that the mind and character are forged. While money can be lost or gained, the lessons learned under pressure are enduring. Tepper approached hardship with a mindset that reframed struggle as instruction, a series of exercises designed to build skill, resilience, and strategic thinking. Every sacrifice made during difficult times is an investment in strength. Tepper recognized that short-term discomfort, whether it's foregoing luxuries, delaying gratification, or making difficult financial choices, cultivates endurance and self-discipline. Sacrifice is not punishment, it is preparation. When you are forced to make tough choices under constraints, you learn what matters most, and you develop the capacity to act decisively under pressure. Each small act of restraint or calculated decision compounds, gradually creating a foundation of mental and emotional fortitude. This foundation becomes invaluable when opportunities arise, as it allows you to act with confidence and clarity where others might hesitate or panic. Hardship also sharpens judgment. Tepper understood that when life is easy, decision-making can be clouded by complacency. Scarcity forces you to evaluate trade-offs, anticipate consequences, and prioritize effectively. When resources are limited, each choice carries weight, teaching lessons in foresight and strategy that are often missed in abundance. By navigating low-income periods wisely, you'll learn to recognize opportunities that others overlook, manage risk intelligently, and make decisions that maximize impact. Tepper's experience shows that judgment developed in adversity is far more reliable than instinct developed in comfort, because it is tested and refined under pressure. Moreover, Tepper believed that the lessons learned in hardship prepare you for abundance without allowing it to destroy you. Many people fail when wealth arrives because they lack the discipline, perspective, or resilience to manage it. Those who have been shaped by scarcity, however, are better equipped to handle prosperity. The same principles that helped you survive low-income periods, patience, strategic thinking, careful decision-making, and mental clarity, become tools for multiplying wealth rather than squandering it. Tepper's philosophy emphasizes that preparation under constraint is not a limitation, it is leverage. Scarcity teaches skills that make abundance exponentially more powerful when it eventually arrives. Ultimately, hardship is a teacher, not a jailer. Tepper's mindset transforms scarcity from a source of fear into a laboratory for growth. Low income is an opportunity to refine patience, build resilience, and sharpen judgment. Every tough decision, every sacrifice, and every calculated risk taken under pressure compounds into mental and strategic capital. If you learn well in these periods, abundance later will not overwhelm you, it will empower you. Tepper's lesson is clear: adversity is temporary, but the strength, wisdom, and preparation you gain from it last a lifetime, equipping you to multiply success when the moment comes. Remember this: money doesn't create discipline, discipline creates money. If you can master your life on very little, you'll be unstoppable with more. Stay calm, stay sharp, stay patient. That's how David Tepper thinks, and that mindset can change your future.